man without a mission is a man without a reason. And we removed the father from his role as the provider, as the steward, as the protector of his little tribe, as the patriarch of his family. We removed his purpose for being, because a paycheck is not a purpose. You're not only worth what you produce, and providing is not a sole purpose. Providing is a function, and men need meaning. We need mission. We need to be needed to serve in a way that goes deeper than a direct deposit. And we don't need prestige. We don't need celebration. I don't need my wife to get me flowers. I hate that one. Don't give me flowers. Man only gets his first flowers at his funeral. I don't want flowers. That's empty to me. I want to be held in honor. When my wife says, I really appreciate all the things that you do for our family, how hard you work, and I know I don't say it. That's not respect. That's honor. That would go a long way. It's good fatherhood. Welcome to episode 71 of Uncommon, the Dad Work Podcast. There's a real pandemic that nobody's talking about. 700,000 men a year, 59,000 men a month, 15,000 men per week, 2,500 men per day, 90 men every single hour. By the time that you're done listening to this, 90 men, almost 2 men every single minute. These are men who are taking their own lives, men with wives and children and families. And it's Pride Month. And I've been accused of putting people down by saying we need to refocus as a culture and start taking pride in the most countercultural thing left in the West, the family. I don't think I'm putting anybody down. I think I'm building people back up. And that all begins with the head of the family, the man, you listening to this right now. And if you don't know it, brothers, we'd never say anything about it. Men are in crisis. And we're not talking about it because we're focused on pride. And I was there back in 2010 getting the closest thing to a minor in LGBT studies that I possibly could get. And I've got quite the story in the background, but we're focused on the wrong things. I'm rededicating this as Family Month, which begins with you, the head of the family. This is also Men's Mental Health Month, but you'd never know it. This is my contribution to shifting the culture back to where it needs to be. Warren Farrell wrote this book called The Boy Crisis. And when I first read it, the data stopped me cold. Because men lead women in 14 out of the 15 leading causes of death. London City Hall and Anxious Minds in 2025 said that suicide is the single leading cause of death for men under the age of 50. Men take their own lives at 4 times the rate of women. Not twice, not a little bit more, 4 times. Male loneliness. Men report 0 close friends. Men reporting that has tripled since 1990. Tripled. 42% of men feel completely alone. And only 21% of men get real support, like real support from other brothers, not just shooting the shit. Oh, did you go golfing? Did you see the sports match? But like actual support. And even though dads, and you're listening to this, you're probably a dad, have 3x the amount of time that they get with their kids compared to fathers in the 1960s, still 46% of dads say they don't spend enough time with their kids compared to just 23% of moms. That's a big difference. 61% feel like they're not doing a good job raising their kids. I'm not a good father. 52% of dads say it's hard to balance work and family time. I struggle with that. I know guys that struggle with that. 64% of dads say their work directly interferes with their family life. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Just the tip. And unless you've been listening to me for a while, you follow other guys in this space, as I'm sure that you do, you'd never know. You'd never know those things. 150 people die on the job site. They don't come from work every day in workplace accidents. 95% of those are men because men predominantly make up the death professions. And I know men who have stood on that rooftop, men who have sat on that motorcycle, who have looked at the light posts going 85 miles an hour down the interstate. I know those men. This is where we are. This is the crisis that we're in. And those men, I don't know a single one of them who didn't want something better for his family. The men who make that permanent choice for the temporary pain that they're going through. And even though you can't see a way out of it right now, and I know because I've been there, you're not giving your family something better, man. Because you're the entire fucking world to your family. To your children, you're like a god. You feed them, you clothe them, you love them. You know everything. You're unimaginably strong and unshakable. They can't knock you down. They can't move you. You're the whole world, man. Before we go any further, I need you to sit with something for a second. I just threw out a bunch of numbers at you, but not a single of these men are statistics. That's a man. And if you're like most of us, if you're like me, that's a man that you know. Maybe, and I say this with all the love that I have right now, maybe that man has been you. Maybe it's you right now. You are not a statistic. You are not alone. You are not a burden. We're going to talk about the way out. But first, we have to name how we got here from the vantage point that I'm sitting in. How did we get here? 3 forces, 3 shifts, a perfect storm happening over generations, which is why most of us are feeling crushed, but we can't see what it is that's crushing us. 1, 1760, the first industrial revolution takes off. Production, manufacturing, factories. And up until this moment, father is present in the home, working on his land. His wife, his kids see him doing that, working his trade with children who watched him work, who worked alongside him in tandem and interdependence with his wife. They weren't equal, but man, they had an equal contribution to the home, and they understood each other's value and each other's worth. They all knew what he did. They all knew who he was. He was a mentor to the children, a model to them, the man in the room, until the factory came. The father left. His children stopped knowing what he did. They stopped seeing who he was. His worth became exclusively financial, provider, paycheck, nothing more. He was worth what he could produce. What's your net worth, bro? And the interdependence of the home now became these male and female exclusive spheres, no longer interdependent, more codependent. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. 50-50. The father was removed as the heart of the family, and the mother was left to guide the home. And the family began to drift. But it wasn't just father. It wasn't just men who were displaced. Think about it. Industrialization didn't just pull men out of the home. It replaced women's labor within the home too. Most things women had done, preserving food, making clothing, managing the household economy, not to mention everything else with the kids, those things got outsourced, industrialized. We could just buy this thing. You don't have to do anything. It'll save you time, they say. Be wary of these claims in the age of AI. Suddenly, it's not just a man's contribution to the home that's devalued, but his queen's value too. And the fuse has been laid, the match lit. This displacement, the loss of the ability to find meaning in the labor that we did for hundreds of thousands of years of our evolution, the interdependence that came along with it, gone. Kindling for everything that comes next. 2, 1837, the Victorian era. The workplace is firmly the man's sphere, and the home, the woman's sphere. 2 separate worlds, 2 separate roles. And what had once been a partnership, a man and a woman working the land and building something bigger than either of them could alone, together became two separate kingdoms. Instead of being one flesh, her being your Ezer Kenegdo, strong where you are weak, strengthen you. Separate. You know about the invisible load. We ceased to become allies, we became competitors. And for as long as we've been around, and we may have been on this planet for 1 million years at this point, men have been viewed as protectors of our women, of our children, and we've had every reason to be. Up through this modern era that we lived in, life could be hard, and the physical differences between men and women really mattered because the world required physical strength to survive. Men protected women because women needed our protection, especially the highly vulnerable period of incubating a child and birthing a child and then rearing a child until that child is ready to become an adult, and then he goes through, or she goes through, the rites of initiation. Women wanted that protection. I saw this viral man on the street clip a few years back that just cracked my skull wide open. We served, and we served our women. We love doing that. I know I do. We love them. We love our women. And I think we inherently understood the sacrificial leadership of Christian family leadership, of Christ, not cognitively, but in our bones. We want our women to be happy. We want our women to choose us and to approve. It does something to us as a man. We could talk about problems with the need for that desire from women. We could talk about all the problems with that at a later time. But the entire reason for being a man is to serve and to be needed to serve and to have a mission, which is that service, a purpose bigger than just existing in himself. And it's in the Victorian era that we see the rise of Jane Austen, a big romance, a Victorian romance. And I know you've probably had to watch, what's the show? Is it Pemberton? I don't know. This is where this begins. Women, their tasks taken from them, freed, quote unquote, freed of tasks, become socialites. Their whole aim turns into becoming a marriageable woman and getting the right education, having the right etiquette and the right dress and saying the right things and making the right impression. Her whole value, her whole worth, her whole life revolves around marrying up into the stewardship of a man of wealth. And then she's done it. And then what does she do? And for us, like, if we're not that man of wealth, well, then what? Then what? 3. 1792, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman is published by Mary Wollstonecraft. 1848, the Seneca Falls Convention. Women begin to speak up about voting rights, property rights, access to higher education, equal treatment for men and women under the law, because, some of the laws were set up to be really unfavorable to women. And single motherhood was a disaster. And so, we had to fix that. The feminist movement, it begins. And now I want to be really mindful here because I'm not saying anything about women. I love women. I love my woman. I'm raising a daughter. I have a mother whom I love. This is not an attack on women. This is an attack on an ideology. 1969 comes. A woman named Mallory Millett attends a consciousness-raising meeting in New York City. These are the women who are founding the National Organization of Women. She sat at that table. She heard what they said behind closed doors, not what made it into the press releases. And the chairperson sits there, and she's written this article. I can put this article in the show notes if you want it. If you want it, just DM me. The chairperson opens the meetings like a prayer, back and forth, call and response. Why are we here today? To make a revolution. What kind of revolution? A cultural revolution. And how do we make cultural revolution? By destroying the American family. These are real words out of real mouths. Bleeding meanings for the National Organization of Women. But it didn't stop there. And how do we do that? How do we destroy the American family? By destroying the American patriarch. And how do we destroy the American patriarch? By taking away his power. You see, because they think that power isn't influence, it's dominance over a wife and control of her. And how do we do that? How do we take away the power of the American patriarch? By destroying monogamy, by destroying marriage. Real words out of real mouths in 1969. This is the beginning of the next wave of the feminist movement. Not just equality, but liberation. This is the advent of the birth control pill. So women can be just like men. Mallory, who watched her sister, Kate Millett, become what Time magazine called the Karl Marx of the women's movement, wrote about this whole episode years later, and I'll give you the link if you want to read all of it. She said herself she watched women that she had formerly respected, women with advanced degrees from Columbia and Radcliffe and Smith, plan the utter destruction of Western society. And these women's thesis was simple. And some are going to yell patriarchy in the comments right now. Bring it on. I don't care. Bring it on. This invisible patriarchy. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Their thesis was that the family is a den of slavery and that the man is the oppressor. The women and the children, the oppressed, the proletariat. This is tied into communism somehow. And the only way to destroy that, only way to liberate women, was to destroy the institution that keeps them there. Family. Monogamy. The man. It's you. The father. And this is where the ideology that has permeated our institutions, men are toxic and patriarchal and oppressive, where that came from. This is what went into our universities, into our media, into our courts, into our culture, into your classroom growing up. And it worked. I grew up in the 90s, in the era of the feminized man who could go with the flow and have all his feelings. And, don't be too aggressive. Don't be toxic. And I went to school in that high school system, and I went into school in that college system, and I sat in those feminist classes. I sat in those women's studies classes. I sat in those LGBTQ classes. And I bought it for a minute. Pop culture, excuse me. And pop culture did the rest. It picked up the ball, it carried it from there. Archie Bunker, Homer Simpson, Al Bundy, any sitcom dad. Bumbling, incompetent, uneducated, inappropriate, racist, sexist. Dads who can't do anything right without the wife apologizing for him or saving him. The deadbeat dad. The guy who's just babysitting his own kids. The military dad that's out of control in the movie American Beauty. Terrifying. Problem. And now I'm sitting here taking my son to see the movie David in 2026, and this advertisement comes on for this movie by Sony Pictures. Breadwinner is coming out. And mom gets this big job, a business trip. She's the breadwinner, and surprise, surprise, dad is an idiot. He doesn't know how to cook, how to do laundry. He has to buy 2 weeks of clothes just for the kids because he doesn't know how to do laundry. Whole movie of worship of just how much women do and just how incompetent men are. They're not done with this, guys. They're not done with this. These are not just movies. These are not just jokes. All of this stuff, I grew up watching this stuff on TV. It's all programming. Being hammered into your head over and over and over, into your kids' heads if they're watching that crap, into your wife's head if she's watching that crap. Telling a generation of boys your father is a punchline. He's useless. He doesn't know where anything is. Telling a generation of men your role is optional and your wife is better. And you actually make life harder for your family. And men have believed it. I sure did. It's part of the reason I never wanted to have kids. I don't want to bring them into that. And flash back to the man on the street video that cracked my skull open. The collapse of the interdependent home, the generation of these spheres puts the degeneration of these spheres. Oh, yeah, no. The creation of these separate spheres puts men in this position that looks an awful lot like a throne. Well, he gets to go out, he gets to make all the money, and therefore he gets control over those finances. Now, my grandparents, that was not it. My grandfather made all the money. My grandmother managed the finances, but this is not the view that people want you to know. But that looks awful lot like a throne that was never imposed by authority, though. A throne that was imposed by consent because, well, we had the physical stature to get up and to go out and to do the work. And yeah, work has become a lot less physical since then. A throne, a power agreement imposed by consent and understanding, mutual care, sacrificial leadership. And yeah, there's a lot of wounded men. There have been a lot of wounded men. There have been a lot of shitty men. And I will not compromise on that. Murder, rape, abuse. Yeah, that we've done that. You don't have to take responsibility for that if you haven't done that. But we made mistakes. And women wanted to withdraw that throne, that power. And women wanted to sit on that throne just like us. And we want nothing more than to serve our women. I want nothing more than to make my wife's burden and load as light as possible so that she could be happy. So what do? We say, okay, honey, come sit in the throne. Let's share. So women withdrew their consent, and what happened? Well, the throne and the entire system has collapsed. Men have looked around and said, okay, well, I guess if I'm not needed, I don't have to do those things anymore because you don't need no man, and you can provide now too. I guess that video games are good. Golf, good. Beer, good. I don't need to be physically in shape anymore. The entire reason for being a man, to be of service, to be fit for service, to be required for that service, to have a mission, to have that purpose. You take away that, and you don't get men who thrive. You get men who disappear into hopelessness, into meaninglessness, into resignment, into resentment. Not to mention that men's median wages have fallen 10% since 1979, while women's have risen 25%. That's great for our ladies. The pay gap is closing, not because men are thriving, but because men are learning less than their fathers did, less than their grandfathers did. A man trying to sole provide for his family today earns 28% less in real dollars than his counterpart did 40 years ago in an economy that's doubled in size. Providing can feel damn near impossible, guys. And what are we supposed to do with that? Because we still want to show up. We still want to provide in the same way, but it feels a lot less doable. And yeah, we can direct our angst about that outward, but a lot of that turns inward to ourselves. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not good enough. The breadwinner of premium, the idea that a man should earn enough to support his family, that disappeared. And now, if you want to live comfortably, and my wife stays at home with the kids, I work to provide that, and we're bootstrapping it. I wouldn't say that we're living in lush comfort. You gotta have two incomes in order to live comfortably nowadays. And if you want to make it work, let's talk about it, because I'll tell you exactly what you need to do to make it happen. But men are working harder than ever carrying more weight than ever because we don't just have the ability now to provide for our families, but to be this mental and emotional relational force for our kids and to relieve our wife of her invisible load while we're earning less, we're grinding harder, and being told at the same time that we're the problem. What are we supposed to do with that? Women cry, "Where are all the good men?" We look around like, where did the men go? Because sometimes it looks like we're a bunch of boys walking around in adult bodies. And I know I can speak for myself. For the longest time, I was like, am I a man yet? How do I know? Where are all the healed men? Why are men struggling so much? I think Patty Pimblett woke a lot of us up back in October 2021. UFC 266. I know he got me. He wins his fight, and instead of talking about the win, he stops and he looks into the camera and he talks about his friend who had just taken his own life. He said, "I'd rather people watch this and come talk to me than for another man to take his own life." And that moment went viral. Millions of views, millions of men sharing it. Millions of men saying, finally, somebody said it. It wasn't a therapist that said it, an influencer, a politician, but a fighter, a man's man standing in the octagon, saying men are struggling and it has to stop. And that hit for men. We don't need to be seen. We don't need a big ticker tape parade, but to be acknowledged, to be understood. Man, that'd be nice. Somebody just say, "I see you." Patty did that. So what's happening? We've talked about how the honor of men has been systematically degraded. We've got the Industrial Revolution, the perfect storm of that. First wave feminist movement, the second wave of the feminist movement. I think it's the second wave of the feminist movement that was hell-bent on destroying the family. We talked about that systematic degradation of the honor and the value of men, the place that we held, sacred place within the family. But what's happening inside of us beyond that? What's causing all of this? Underneath all of this are three relatively agreed upon root causes. And until we name them, we can't do anything about them. One, purposelessness. A man without a mission is a man without a reason. And we removed the father from his role as the provider, as the steward, as the protector of his little tribe, as the patriarch of his family. We removed his purpose for being. Because a paycheck is not a purpose. You're not only worth what you produce, and providing is not a sole purpose. Providing is a function. And men need meaning. We need mission. We need to be needed to serve in a way that goes deeper than a direct deposit. And we don't need prestige. We don't need celebration. We don't need 100,000 thank yous. I don't need my wife to get me flowers. I hate that one. Don't give me flowers. Man only gets his first flowers at his funeral. I don't want flowers. I want a hug. A hug is good. And people say men want respect, but I don't even want that. That's empty to me. I want to be held in honor. When my wife says, "I really appreciate all the things that you do for our family, how hard you work," and I know I don't say it, that's not respect. That's honor. That would go a long way. That would go a long way, not just within the family, but all the men that are putting their lives on the line, keeping the infrastructure running, this impossible world that we live in, working in the death professions. Some of them don't come home. A little honor for them. That would go a long way. A little honor for being a man. That would go a long way. 2, disconnection from God, from brotherhood, from meaningful rites of passage, from communities that know our names, that challenge us and hold us when we're drifting and remind us who we are when life gets hard. 25 years ago, regular church attendance was common. In 1999, it was 70%. of people. Today, that's fallen to 47%. Church membership has fallen below 50% for the first time in modern American history. The percentage of Americans with no religious affiliation has grown from 9% in 2000 to over 20%. And at the same time, we're facing an epidemic of loneliness in men. More anxiety, more depression, more addiction, more suffering and silence. Now, am I saying that just going to church automatically fixes mental health? No. But it sure as hell is a place to start. If you remove God from AA doesn't work. Look it up. There's something about a relationship with God that changes everything. As men, we were never designed to walk alone. For thousands of years since our tribes have dissolved, faith communities have provided something that modern life has struggled to replace: meaning, belonging, brotherhood, service, accountability, a relationship to something greater than ourselves. Whether you sit in a church pew or around a fire in a chop club, which I'm building here in Lake Zurich, Illinois, around your dinner table, the truth is the same. Healing, unburdening, it happens in connection with other human beings, with other men. The lone wolf has been sold to us as a noble ideal, but they never tell you the end of the story. That's that he dies in the wild alone. You, man, were built for the hunting party and the fire team, for the tribe, for the shield wall, never to go it alone. Modern culture has gradually taken that from us. We are created for relationship. Relationship with God, with our brothers, with our wives, with our children, with the deepest parts of ourselves. The body does something miraculous when we're under stress. Yeah, it releases cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormones, but it also releases something else, and that's oxytocin, which drives us towards other human beings, toward our drive, toward our brothers, toward our family, toward God. That is, if we can break through this next thing. 3, shame. The deepest wound for us as men. I don't know a single man who's honest who doesn't have this running underneath the surface. You are not enough. You are the problem. You are toxic. You are patriarchal, oppressive, abusive, unnecessary. You are punchline. A man who believes he is the problem has no reason to fight for himself. And so he doesn't. And the culture has sure tried to pound this into your head since 1969. It's still going. Breadwinner. As men, our 2 core wounds, our 2 core questions are, will I be found inadequate? Will I be abandoned? And all of our coping habits, all the masks that we wear, all of our self-sabotage revolves around ensuring that no one finds out about our inadequacies, so no one can abandon us or excommunicate us from the tribe, because that means death. And this isn't just psychology, guys. This is biology. Over 1 million years of evolution. And on the surface, we're talking about shame, but on the surface, it looks like this. I don't want my family to feel the weight that I'm carrying, because I don't want to burden my wife with that. My job is to unburden her. I sure as hell don't want to burden my little ones with that. And I don't want to burden my brothers with what's going on with me. I don't want to be a burden. That's what this looks like. And I've had men say it inside our Order of Kings Telegram group. Men who have dropped out of the group, who I scrambled to find, calling their wives to make sure that they hadn't done the worst thing I could imagine. I don't want to keep going on and on because I feel like my problems are nothing, and I don't want to be a burden to this group. And luckily, those guys were okay. I've heard men say it in co-ed groups where the women prod them and they ask, why don't you talk more? Why don't you share what's going on for you? And he says, because it doesn't really matter. I feel that. Imagine that you do too. In male depression, guys, it looks different. Another part of the issue is that we have a mental health model that's just not built for men. The problems begin with our boys who are sitting in classrooms and are disciplined for acting like boys, asked to be more like the girls. And when they can't, they're medicated, numbed out, turned into little zombies. And when men start to struggle, it doesn't look like classic sadness. It doesn't look like what it looks like in women. Men are physical. We externalize our distress through irritability and sudden anger, risk-taking behaviors, escapism, throwing ourselves into work to the point of obsession, chronic pain in the body, headaches, back pain, digestive distress, social withdrawal, which we already have a male loneliness crisis, and that withdrawal itself from social life is itself a major suicide risk factor. As men, we express distress not through emotional signs, but through our actions. Angry, frustrated outbursts, alcohol, another hit of the THC pen, substance abuse, reckless driving. Many men report physical symptoms more readily than discussing their feelings. Those things are easier to talk about. But at the age of 2, boys are treated differently than girls. And, I'm going to go on and say that I actually think that we need to do this. I think that we need to do this. But by the age of 2, we start telling boys generally that it's not okay to cry. Maybe you don't say that outright, but it's like, hey, man, don't cry. It's going to be okay. Let's keep going. But we don't do that with our girls. We hold them. Honey, I love you so much. You okay? We have to give our boys the tools to feel their feelings and to work through it. As a boy, my son goes into full Vegeta mode. He gets this anger, this rage, and I can shut him up, or I can say, cool, man, let's go to your room. I'm gonna let you hang out and get this out for a minute, and then let's come in and let's talk about this. Let's get it out of our bodies. Let's rah, like lions and bears and actually just discharge this, and then let's talk about what that was. This starts at the age of 2. And so we don't have the tools to discuss our feelings because nobody ever gives us those tools. As men, we unconsciously mask our depression with anger and irritability and workaholism and substance abuse, loss of self into our phone, into video games, instead of expressing what's happening inside. Most of us, because we have no idea what's happening inside. There's a condition called alexithymia, which means no words for emotion, and men are twice as likely to experience it as women. Sometimes it can happen from suppressing our negative emotions so much that we lose the ability to feel what's happening in there, so we don't know what's happening until we have another outburst, and then we're left feeling embarrassed that we did it again. But not only that, the worst part of this is that we lose the ability to feel the good things too. Our cultural norms have discouraged men who are built for realness within the hunting party, within the shield wall, from being real and open and having men's spaces. Oh, you got to let women into your space. Having men's only spaces where they can be real and talk about the shit that we have to carry as men. Leading to, no place for us to go for this, and a misdiagnosis and missing the signs entirely. And the way through this, guys, looks different for men too. Men are significantly less likely to use the official mental health system compared to women, and I don't blame them. Men respond better to action-based work over one-on-one talk-based therapy. It's science. Doesn't mean that it can't work for you, but men tend to benefit from a shoulder-to-shoulder approach rather than a one-to-one approach. There's research that men may benefit more from interventions that incorporate physical activity, competition, structured problem solving, all things that align with the male stress response tendency to take action within the shield wall, within the hunting party. That's why I'm putting together Chop Club. What are we going to do? We're going to literally go chop wood and build a fire together, and then we're just going to be real, and then we're going to go home. I keep finding these suggestions that men do cardio based on studies for depression. Walk more, run more. But here's the problem I have with that. More than 20 minutes of steady state cardio elevates your cortisol level, your primary stress hormone. You're literally adding more stress to a man who's already drowning in it. If it works for you, great, keep going. I don't think it's the best approach. The same thing doesn't happen with strength training when you're working for seconds to minutes under the bar. A meta-analysis of 33 randomized controlled trials found resistance training produces significant reductions in depressive symptoms, regardless of age, health status, or how much you're lifting. Doesn't matter how much you have on the bar, bro. The mechanism isn't mysterious. It changes neurotransmitters, your brain chemistry, your cerebral blood flow. And what I've seen in 16 years of coaching men, a man who picks something heavy up and puts it down feels different. Not just physically, but something shifts. He remembers what he's capable of. He builds evidence again that he can do hard things and that when things hurt, it's okay. And that matters, especially for a man who's forgotten what he's worth. Do hard things. Do those things with other men. Get real with them consistently, and everything changes. You listening to this right now, you're worth this, man. Study after study, Warren Farrell, the Harvard Grant study, decades of developmental research all say the same thing. A present, engaged father changes everything. Children with evolved fathers are 80% less likely to spend time in prison, 75% less likely to become pregnant as a teenager, 85% less likely to experience behavioral problems, more likely to graduate from high school, more likely to have healthy relationships as an adult, more likely to be emotionally regulated adults. Physically activated fathers increase the kids' likelihood of being physically active themselves in adulthood by 66%. Men who lead their family in faith and have that as a base to fall back into in the hardest of times, their kids have a 75% chance, up to 93% chance of carrying that into adulthood versus 15% for a mother who leads the family in faith. Men, husbands, fathers, leading the family, you are not optional. You are indispensable. You're the cornerstone. And when the cornerstone is removed, everything built around it eventually falls. You want better for your family, you get better within yourself. You want better in your marriage, you get better within yourself. You want better in your community, heal more fathers. You want to fix the country, you fix the family by fixing marriages and fixing fathers. There's a concept that I come back to over and over again of the transitional character. The man who sees the cycles that are repeating in his life and in his bloodline. The broken father, the absent father, the checked out dad, the mental health struggles, being overweight, having heart disease, heart attacks, obesity, unhappy marriage, divorce, alcohol, drug abuse, you name it. And he decides it ends with me. It ends here and now. I will not pass this down. That man is the most powerful force in civilization. He doesn't need a platform for change. He doesn't need some movement to carry him away. He just needs to be present within his home and really present. He needs to find brotherhood again. He needs to do the inner work that his fathers never had the permission to do, so that his children won't have it to carry the weight that he's carrying. The demons that we don't face live with our wives and raise our children. And if we don't face them, they will have to. That's what this is, guys. That's what Chop Club is that I've talked about. That's what Order of Kings is that I run. 16 weeks, change your freaking life, change your family. That's what patriarch is. And this September, I'm bringing together the most important voices in this conversation about men's health, fatherhood, family, and moral leadership. Making the man, his money, his marriage, his faith, his fathering, his leadership better. A better world through better men, reclaiming what it means to be men, to be husbands, to be fathers, to be leaders. It's coming this September. You can get on the wait list. The link is in the details. The show notes. This is too important to leave to Instagram content that fades away in 19 hours, or YouTube, which fades away in a week. This is too important to leave to podcasters alone. Men need a room with other men who are hell-bent on getting right, showing up, being better, and leading, not just for themselves, but for their wives and for their children and for their families. That's the path, guys. That's the way. And I want to close by talking directly to that man who feels the fire for this. The one who's probably white-knuckling it, who's doing everything he's supposed to do and still feels like he's drowning. The one who's standing on the rooftop doing the life insurance math and thinking there's no cameras here, I could fall off this roof. I need you to hear this. Your family doesn't need insurance money. They don't need to be unburdened of you. They need you. Not just the you who's holding it together, the you that's on the other side of the work, facing what needs to be faced. The you found inside brotherhood. The you that stopped carrying it alone. The man is there. I see him. I've coached him. In a lot of ways, I've been him. And he's worth fighting for. And if you can't see a way out right now, if you can't see the light in the tunnel that you're in, here's where you're going to go. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Call or text 988, available 24 hours a day. Real people, no judgment. Headsupguys.org, built specifically for men, because the way we've been telling men to get help hasn't worked for us. I'm not telling you not to go to therapy. Go here. This does. And if you want to talk to me directly, DM me. And I mean that. I'm not a bot, not a team member. You direct DM me. And we're shifting the culture, guys. We're making a change. And if you want to be in the room with men who get it, Patriarch. The waitlist is in the show notes. This community exists exactly for this moment because we're going to make a change. You don't have to carry this alone. You were never supposed to. Get help. Do your work. Find your brothers. Lean in. And if any part of this episode landed, share it with a man who needs it. That's the whole point. 700,000 men a year, 59,000 a month, 15,000 a week, 2,500 a day, 90 over the course of this podcast. Almost two this next minute. It doesn't have to be this way, guys. You're more than enough. You're more than enough. And this world is a better place with you in it now. Iron sharpens the iron. One man sharpens another. Find your men. Lean in. And stay sharp, brothers. And for the love of God, keep going. Keep going. You can DM me on Instagram, Rob Bill Jr. Go to my website, robbilljr.com. Book a call with me. All the other resources are in the show notes. If you got some kind of value out of this, this is value for value, so send me $5 on Venmo, but please just, for this one, don't share this. Keep showing up, guys. Have an uncommon day.